Welcome back. I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is the Big Deal podcast for those who don't just want to be rich, but want to be free and do what it actually takes to get there. Okay, so today we're diving into the rise of counterculture and how movements like this are becoming mainstream in many ways. From homesteading to homeschooling to home remedies, more people are choosing to live life on their own terms, stepping away from the conventional paths. Kimberly Vanderbeek joins us on this episode to talk about all of this. So if you're curious about motherhood done unconventionally, modern dating and how to attract that person to you that is supposed to be with you, and how to both homeschool kids if you want to or homestead them, I think you'll like this episode. So I'm kind of in love with Kim. I've gotten to be friends with her through a couple friends locally. And I'm so curious lately about how do I be a feminine woman and also crush it in the workplace? Now, you might know Kim as the wife of Dawson's Creek star James Vanderbeek. She has 6 kids. I don't know how she does that. And then she also has really unique ideas into clean wellness, into living on sort of a compound with 16 cabins. In 2020, her family made the move from LA to a place about an hour outside of Austin. Now, Kimberly is all about sort of community. And what does it mean in this society today where we have totally gotten away from that? And how could, if you feel lonely today, how could you bring it back? And I think that is exactly why I want to remind you guys that this podcast is all about community. It's the idea that we bring the unvarnished truth about business ownership by the many instead of the few together. So if you guys have ever thought about how to become part of a business community, you should check out Contrarian Thinking Community. I do think that one of the chronic illnesses of our society today is we are lonely, we are isolated, and thus we feel weak and we feel powerless. And when we realize that all around us are other humans who want the exact same things we do, the world changes, or as Kimberly says, it shifts. So today we're going to lean into a story that is maybe a little bit more normal here in Austin, but not around the world. I want to jump right in with something that I was fascinated by, which was the conception cabin on your land. Can you talk about that? What is it? What does it do?
Okay. There's this great book called Spirit Babies by Walter Mackey Chen.
Cool.
And it talks about the different portals that are all over the world about where spirit babies come through and go from the spirit baby realm into conception. And I believe one of those portals is on our land.
Cool.
So it's cabin 16. And we've had 2 different friends conceive in this cabin.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And are there 16 other cabins on the land?
There are 21.
Wow.
But some of the walls have come out and we've turned them into different things like offices or movie theater area.
Love that. And so the idea is essentially, I want to read Spirit Babies. I've kind of gotten into what I'll now call woo-woo stuff lately.
Oh, fabulous.
I know. I'm going down
reality.
I'm literally going down such a rabbit hole. And that's why I was attracted to talking to you, because it felt like all the things we were told for so long about, I'll just say the female body. I mean, I won't even get into the broader medical establishment, are sort of incomplete at best.
Yeah.
And, when we're trying to figure out how to get pregnant, I look all around and all my women friends have struggled to make it happen. They've gone through round after round of IVF.
Yeah.
And now there's sort of this coming back to ourselves and our own knowing that I'm starting to see.
Yeah.
And so I sort of want to dive into this a little bit with you.
Yeah.
Because you have 6 kids, right? And are all of those kids, you had them all naturally?
I had define natural.
Yeah.
So my first was born in a hospital.
Yeah.
After an epidural and Pitocin.
Uh-huh.
And my other 5 were born at home.
God, that's wild.
Yeah.
By yourself with a midwife? How does that work?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. So I had midwives, a doula and a couple. I had midwife and doctor sometimes, and sometimes my doctor missed.
Yeah. What's the difference between a doula and a midwife?
So there's a big difference, actually. A midwife helps the mother in the delivery process with the baby. She'll observe, she'll see if something needs to happen medically, perhaps, and she's trained in that way. A doula is there to support the mother and to make sure the mother has everything that she needs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And is there like training for the two? And how do you decide who's a good or a bad midwife or doula?
Okay. Well, there's lots of training for a midwife and for a doula, and it looks very different. So there is no governing body for a doula, actually. So there are lots of what feel very official doula training programs, but there's not a governing body over it. So to get a proper certificate, somebody came up with this, and there you go.
Yeah.
And a midwife is different. I mean, they need to have medical background knowledge and expertise and lots of training with births. And I think some doulas do that as well. I know a lot of doulas that could probably help birth, but they don't have that certification in place. So,
100%.
yeah. And how do you know if you have the right midwife or doula? Well, for me, my process was, for my first birth, I really wanted to have a home birth, and I was talked out of it. Yeah. And so
But that was when?
that
what
was,
year would that have been?
I mean, that was in 2010 she was born.
Which was kind of before this was as, and I wouldn't even say it's mainstream yet.
Yes, that's correct.
But back then, if you were like, I'm going to home birth, with a doula or a midwife, and especially you were in LA at the time, weren't you?
Yes.
They probably told you were crazy.
Everybody told me I was crazy, and to some degree I listened to them.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to, but I did. And so my process was interviewing doctors. And I found one that I felt, when I'm interviewing a doctor, I want somebody that is going to honor my intuitive knowing and give me space and has listened to my birth requests. And we call them requests. Because a birth has its own life. You don't really know what's going to happen, right? So when you are in co-creation with another soul, you're also tending to their energetic field, and maybe they want to be born via a cesarean, and that's the right way for them, or whatever it is. So I call it a birth request because a mom will know what she wants. Here's my prayer, here's my request, and then life takes its course. But for a doctor, that's what I was looking at, somebody that would honor me.
Yep.
For my second pregnancy, Joshua, I found out he was breech at 37 weeks. And my mom delivered my sister breech, and I never looked at it as a negative thing. But
Which basically means the baby's like laying like this?
So there are 3 different breech positions, and
Okay.
the one that he was in is a complete breech. So he's like curled up like this, and he's booty down.
Oh, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
good. Okay.
So the head is up here.
Okay.
But I never looked at it as an emergency. I think it's about 4% of babies are in breech position towards the last trimester,
Okay.
the end of the last trimester. And so for me, I was told basically turn the baby or this is going to be a cesarean. And that didn't sit right with me. Now, if it did sit right with me and I felt like this is the right move for us, I would have done it. But there was this deeper intuitive feeling to investigate. And when I investigated further, and I think this is the first thing you do with a parent. As a parent, you get your information and you weave in your intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no book on your intuitive knowing, but I started to do a deep dive. And what I discovered were there were some outdated studies on breech births that took into account third world countries without a head down counterpart. So the studies were heavily flawed. And at that time, they stopped training doctors how to do breech births.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are a simple maneuvers that can actually really help safely deliver a breech baby, but the doctors are no longer trained in those maneuvers. So now we do have indeed a dangerous situation unless you have a doctor that's trained. So I actually magnetized Dr. Stuart Fishbein, who had delivered hundreds of breech births, got himself out of the medical system and was doing them at home.
Wow.
Because he was bumping up against a lot. And
Why don't they train them on that anymore? Is it because cesarean sections are really expensive and
well, you could
Did
go
it
down
follow the money rabbit hole?
of following the money for sure. However, I guess when you're 37 weeks pregnant, you don't have the time for that rabbit hole. It's just,
Yeah.
I need to take care of myself and my baby. And so this is what felt right for me. And I had Dr. Fishbein, and I had Beth Cannon, who is a midwife that works for him. So I had that team and my doula. So we had a solid team. It was a super deep privilege actually to have this team, because most people actually don't have access to a doctor like this at all, and a midwife team. So I feel so deeply grateful for that. And then with my next baby, I said, you know what? This team was a reactive response for me, and it was a great privilege to have them, but I actually need to choose my team now, right? And so I was like, I need to make sure that this is a choice, because I felt like I didn't have one last time. And so I met people, even though I loved my birth team, and I said, I love my birth team. I still love my birth team, and now I'm choosing them. So I went with the same team the next time.
Interesting.
But for me, that choice really happened with watching people's responses with what I wanted to do and see how much that was honored.
Interesting. Yeah, you know, it's interesting to me that today when a woman says, I feel an intuition about my body this way, when we say, no, I can just tell that something's off here or something's right, that people think that sounds bizarre. And they're like, no, go get 37 ultrasounds, go get 452 tests instead. And, don't, to your point, maybe honor that as much. What does that mean to be like medically intuitive and to follow your own intuition? Because, my grandmother used to say, which I think is true, that a great way to fail in the medical, if anything's going wrong in your body, is like doctors are trained to do one thing really well, which is like eventually kill you. And that was like her little tongue-in-cheek joke about the fact that, everything leads to more surgeries, more prescriptions, et cetera.
Yeah.
So how do you actually find your intuition?
Well, just like I wouldn't lump all doctors into the same category. I actually have doctors in my life that are incredibly passionate about what they do, and they're willing to go on a limb for their passion. But if we take it back to the medical establishment, we can go down another money rabbit hole. So the pharmaceutical companies pay for those universities. So I know some nurses who they learned their food pyramid that was developed by Nestle, and that was funding their nurse program, right? And even when it comes to food, we hear the good old ask your doctor if you should take this herb or this food. But that is a medical legal slogan, essentially, at this point, which also I need to say, I'm not a doctor, guys.
Yeah.
So take my advice, listen to it, and go talk to your doctor, because legally you have to say that. But are doctors trained in nutrition? Most of them are not. Last I checked, it was about 10% of medical schools. Even if, ask your doctor about a vaccination. I talked to a lot of doctors. What I heard from them was that was about a half a day in medical school. So if you take like a mom following her intuitive guidance and, unraveling and actually sitting there and going through the peer-reviewed studies and the research and all of that, you may have somebody that's actually far more educated than a lot of the doctors. But again, you'll have these amazing, passionate doctors that love what they do. And those doctors, I have been so fortunate to know in my life, and they're incredible. So it really takes both, because intuition breeds curiosity and passion. And if you're following that thread, you are going to get really informed.
Kind of a bizarre question, but your first baby, you had some sort of numbing agent.
Yes.
The next 5 you didn't, right?
Yes.
Does that hurt like hell? You went back for 5 more times?
So the first one I pushed for almost 2 hours. I was rocking, and I got to the hospital and I wasn't even a centimeter dilated. And I said, that is because you guys made me sign paperwork when I got here. And my fight or flight, I shut down. And so eventually my doula had everybody leave the room. And with 1 hour, I was dilated to 9 with pushing contractions.
Wow.
And so, I was able to like pick really back up where I left off. And so for me, some people find a deep comfort and security in being in the hospital. I've been asked before, like, are you an advocate of home births? And I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Where is the woman most comfortable? For me, it was not the hospital, and it shut down my labor process.
That's a great, I mean, like everything in life, it's like, I'm not telling you how to live yours. Don't tell me how to live mine. I'm just telling you my experience.
Yes. And then now I'm having, then I do get the epidural. I do get Pitocin. She's sort of crooked in there. And they're telling me to push and that I'm having contractions, and I couldn't feel them. Wow. So I actually was quite detached. And then when they gave her to me, I just had to throw up right away. I'm so sensitive to medication. So she immediately had to go to my husband. There wasn't that moment. And that's okay, like I'm so grateful for that birth experience because I get to talk to women all over the world about hospital and home births and my experience in all of the above. But I would say that I prefer to feel.
Yeah.
It's for me, it was like with my births, I got to meet myself.
Cool.
And with my daughter Olivia in the hospital, I got to meet the part of myself that is fully capable of surrendering to a divine unfolding that wasn't what I thought I was going to have. And, in that moment when she was born that I thought I was going to have, it was like a very deep surrender. And that's part of being a parent. So they've all been in a different way meeting myself, but I am okay with the pain.
Yeah.
And boy, does that come. Some people talk about these orgasmic births, and I'm like, who are you?
I hope that whole you chuckle a little bit too.
I feel like I kind of had one though, actually.
Really?
So my third was 30 minutes of active labor. And she came so quickly, and everybody told me I was so quiet the whole time. And then she was born. It was so peaceful. I'm just pouring warm water on her head. She was born in the water. It was so peaceful. So
interesting.
Oh, maybe that my legs slightly orgasmic birth.
That's wild. I mean, I hope I have that. I hope that for all women. So it's not are you scared? Like your second, third, fourth, and fifth time before?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always a point in every single pregnancy that I've ever had where my stomach's out to here and I'm like, this baby has to come out of me at some point.
Yeah.
Whether it's cesarean or birth or something, there is a potentially painful process ahead.
Yeah.
And I definitely, every birth, have had that moment of panic.
Yeah. It seems totally natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a really good girlfriend who her first birth was a home birth.
Yeah.
And she said a line that I'd be curious your take on. She's like, I wanted to do more. She has 4 beautiful babies. And she's like, I wanted to do more at home. But she's like, I didn't think my husband could handle it again because he was so freaked out for me. It was so scary for him. And I was actually okay. But he was like, I don't think I can go through it again. Like, how did James handle it?
Oh, thank God for James. I would have thrown my husband out of the room, I think. No offense to the husband, because everybody has a different way of watching their other half process pain.
Right.
But the first one at the hospital, I was in and out of the shower, and he was having to guess what I needed. I'm like, hot, cold, hot, cold, change the water, do that. It's like, you need to be psychic and understand my needs.
Yeah.
But for the home births, it was really beautiful. And for the first birth, this is a little personal, but for the first birth, I'm like, you're not down there. You're up here.
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah, you didn't want him seeing all that.
I'm like, I don't need you changing your mind about things. The second one, he was in there helping deliver.
Wow.
Yeah. My doctor's like, hey, James, come here. And
you felt comfortable with that. And he was into it.
I remember having a moment of thinking, we didn't discuss this, but it was perfect. It felt perfect. And he's so deeply honoring of me and so loving and worshiping of my body that I just feel so safe with him.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was birthing Amelia, my 5th, I wanted to have a birth where my team wasn't present. That was my request. Like you guys, but I'm not a free birther. I sort of like to know I have a team there if I need. And so they're like listening, and I call in my doula. I'm like, I'm breathing right. I'm pushing right. And she's feeling a little crooked. And like, can you just make sure I'm breathing properly? I just wanted somebody to look, and she's like, yep. And then I eventually had my whole team come in, and Amelia was all bruised on one side. She was very crooked, pushing up against a bone in there. And I felt that leading up to the pregnancy too. I was doing this sidewalk walk off the ledge to sort of even out my body. But it was a pretty painful process of getting her moving through. And there was a moment where I was in such deep pain and so surrendered really to God at this point.
Yeah.
And my husband looked at me and he said, so emotional for me. He looked at me and he's like, I know this is so hard for you. Oh my God, babe, you were so sweet. He's like, I know this is so hard for you, but this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the whole world. And he is like, you're just so beautiful and you are doing it. Wow. And I was like, that gave me that little extra bit of strength to help deliver the baby. Yeah. So it's like the woman does everything, right? But if we can have more men, James just maybe should be talking about this to everybody, like learning how to really truly support their partner in this process. I know he was part of like my divine strength for that one. Yeah. Like absolutely. For Jeremiah, my sixth baby, I was in our bathtub, and it was one of my more difficult births as well. I'm thinking my sixth one, he's going to fly right out of me. He was over a pound bigger than my next biggest baby.
Oh, yeah. And you're little.
I'm fairly little. I got some birthing hits on me, but I am. And so I had this crystal a friend gave me that she said she held in her labor. I picked that up, and I picked up another one, and I was praying on all the sisterhood that's ever birthed a child in the entire world, or that's ever held a woman in birth that has not birthed a child, to like be with me to birth this child. And like I held those, and I had all the sisterhood of the world come in, and I had a midwife that knew, stand over there. And like, I got to go into my full thing. Nobody messed with my energy. My friend Peggy was there. She was like just sort of holding a Reiki space. And I like mustered up everything I had. But it was like, and that's how it's like, I met the surrendered part of myself with Olivia. With this birth with Jeremiah, I met that like female sisterhood warrior part of myself. So each birth has been something different for me that I think for my soul process I've needed on my journey, and we all have something else that we need. Like I recently, we talked a little bit about being a medical intuitive. I recently worked on this woman. When I say work, it's really just listening to what the body has to say, that had some deep trauma with sexual abuse. I know. And I saw her scar, and I'm like, were all your babies delivered via cesarean? She said yes. And I saw how profoundly beautiful the gift her soul gave her children. She was kind of like,
protected.
Don't go into this energy. You're coming out here. And how like I had never like, it was just this super, and there are other people that will have abuse and still birth out so beautifully. And it's a very deep healing process for everybody. But in this specific scenario, I was like, what a sacred gift.
Yeah.
Being born through cesarean births, you gave your children, because that was her soul's way of holding her children as a mother for the first time. Wow. I know. So it just, for me with birth, it's just always a beautiful unfolding, and it's one of the greatest surrenders. We can all have our plans in place, but being a parent is like the great surrender, and knowing that it's a co-creation.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on here is that I have so many girlfriends right now that are struggling to get pregnant. And I
Yeah.
think it's a nationwide, maybe a global epidemic.
It is.
And
Really?
what's wild is I have watched some of my friends go through 3, 5, 8 rounds of IVF. I have watched them struggle with charts and graphs and 400 pills a day.
Yeah.
And I'm not a doctor. I have no idea what is right to do there or what is not.
Yeah.
But then I have watched some of my friends, really oddly, a lot of them here in Austin, who like, Gabby, 40, pregnant twice beautifully, easily. And, Liz, who I think you know too, has had her little second. And I'm like, wait a second, there seems to be this other option, which is, maybe this conscious contraception. It's a little bit more woo-woo. Like, how do you see the world now from difficulty of getting pregnant? What do you think's happening, and what are you seeing with all the women that you're talking to about getting pregnant? Because you host group gatherings with women, right?
I do. Yeah, and pregnancy is a big one for me. Like, there are all sorts of divine blessings and openings and listening to the body that are present there. So what I've personally seen is, in listening to a woman's body, there are many stories to be told. A lot of times abuse, or a lot of times watching a family member struggle, or a lot of times just being out of touch with the body. And then there are a lot of people that simply have this as part of their divine unfolding process, So it's like, you really never know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my birth with Olivia. Sometimes there is a divine surrender. Maybe you need to make peace with medicine. Maybe you need to make peace with showing up and going to appointments and just having another calling. I've never seen it be the same thing for everybody. But what I would say, if somebody is really struggling, is the first thing I would suggest is to sit with somebody and really learn if there's something that your body wants to communicate with you, because sometimes it can lift something like that and somebody gets pregnant right away.
Yeah.
But it's not always that. Sometimes, like, there wants to be this earthly surrender process.
It's a good point. And, what I found to be so helpful as I think about going through pregnancy too is just having other women around you that are open to talking about it. Yeah. This is never something I talked about. I didn't want to talk about it, wasn't interested in it. And I thought you really didn't talk about it. It was like, sex, religion, pregnancy, I guess. And now there are these, which we should talk about.
I've had 5 miscarriages, 2 late-term near-death experiences.
Oh my God.
And I remember I first started talking about miscarriages and nobody was talking about them.
Yep.
Like, nobody was talking about them. It was a bit of a lonely place, but I didn't care. Everybody has a different grieving process, and mine was just being upfront.
Yeah, my mom actually was similar. She had 4 miscarriages.
Yeah.
And then 1 baby all the way to, fully, but that was my sister, Kristen, and she died. She was just born with a tiny little heart, like not a big enough heart. And so she only lived for a few months. And that was in between me and my brother. But, I remember the statistics on it afterwards. Like, late-term miscarriages, you have a 90% divorce rate.
90%?
90%. And if you lose a child, it's closer to 95% as a parent.
Whoa.
And so watching my parents come through that on the other side I didn't realize how rare that was.
Wow. I had no idea either. What I will share is that I had the 1 late-term miscarriage at 17 weeks with a boy, and then I got pregnant right away. I was not trying to get pregnant because that was truly was a near-death experience. And then the next one at 17 weeks, get this. Okay, I'll tell you the whole story. Yeah. So that first one happened on November 17th, 17 weeks, boy. Then I got pregnant, and I was given the due date of November 17th.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. That kind of gave me the chills.
Right?
Yeah.
With a boy at 17 weeks, the same thing happened.
Wow.
Yes. So then I came to Texas and I got this amazing doctor that was like, you need a stitch. You need a cervical cerclage to make sure that you're not opening up early. And I got that.
Mean? That just means they like make your vagina smaller?
What they do is they go in and they stitch your cervix together so it doesn't open up.
Is that what's happening? So like the baby was like dropping out?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's wild.
Yeah, perfectly healthy. I know. Yes.
How did you even figure that out?
This doctor.
Wow.
And my doctor in LA too was like, I think this may be the thing. He knew as well, but I was in Texas at this point.
Interesting.
So yeah, it was pretty wild. But that's one of the benefits of being open and talking to what you were speaking to about pregnancy and really just having women get together.
Yeah. Well, I think when I was younger, I used to think women got together and you bemoan men, right? You know, like you get together and you're like, no good guys, you know.
Oh, it's so not true.
Right. Yeah. I was giving a little bit of a hard time to the ladies who do my hair and makeup for this because they're beautiful. They're like stunning. Kyle knows. No, just kidding. He has a girlfriend. He's not allowed to respond. But they're like these beautiful young women.
Yeah.
And I was asking them, I'm like, what's going on? Are we dating? What's happening? And they're like, no, there's no good men here. I'm like, well, if you say that, what do you think you're putting out there? What are you going to get?
I love when you say things like that.
Well,
because that is such a deep truth.
I think it's true.
It is a deep truth. We frequency match.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Right?
Interesting.
So what's the part of you that stopped trusting men?
Yeah. Right.
And honestly, I've moved through that big time in big ways. And
how do you fix
really helped blossom me open. I think with anything, so when we're listening to the body and what the body has to say, it's the same thing. And listen, I'm far from a perfect person here. I'm definitely in deep human processes. So let me just start by saying that.
Yeah.
But for me, the way that I fixed my relationship with men was being curious about where it was coming from. What have I heard growing up? What are the conversations? What have my experiences been? And do I need to perpetuate this pattern? Or can I let it go? I think when I was driving here today, you're such a sacred spot to come home to, I must say.
Oh, yay.
I had this whole revelation actually on the way here that I'm dedicating myself to God. And I did it on my drive here. Yeah. I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, why not? And so in doing that, you have God as your partner to bounce everything on. Here's how I'm really feeling, and I'm going to be at least super honest with you.
Yep.
You know, just go be really honest with God and get really, really curious about yourself and where things come from and ask for help.
No, it's so true. I mean, you know, what's fascinating, this is the two girls downstairs. I said, well, have you been, I went to Red Rocks Church the other day in Austin, which is like, it's kind of lovely. It's in this like old school movie theater.
Okay.
And so it's a very new agey church, right? So it's like a bunch of young people that got together, they got cheap rent, you know, the place is slammed. It's totally full. But I went in because I'm doing a church tour to try to find a church that I like.
Yeah.
So I went with a friend of mine and we went to a few of them. And we walk in and I looked around and I was like, there's so many beautiful people here. There's so many beautiful young men and women here. And so I said that to him. I'm like, have you been to church? Like, we go every Sunday. I'm like, wow. So you're like, you know, spiritual young women. They both said they kind of newly came back to it. And I go, but do you talk to anybody when you're there? Like, no, we kind of run in, we scamper out, you know? So you're like, well, that's probably not going to help it that much.
Yeah.
But I do feel that there's this group of humans who are all feeling comfortable enough to say, I believe in God.
Yes.
Like that. I can't imagine very many people in LA when you guys were in the midst of being famous and having all of
girl, I've always just been so upfront.
Did you?
Yes.
What would people say to you? Like, was that normal? Did other people believe in God?
People in my life think I'm not. I mean, I'm like speaking light language, which in church it's talking in tongues, connecting to God, looking at like the quantum field inside somebody's body. Unabashedly, at least in my private life. And now I'm telling people a little bit. I'm like, I'm ready to let the cat out of the bag more. I'm so done of hiding. I'm so done with hiding. It's like, I'm just so done with hiding. So done with hiding. We are divine creatures.
Yep.
Sing about it. Like, just let it be. Okay, you don't believe in God. Where did we come from, and what energy created the Big Bang?
Yeah, exactly.
There was an energy that created it. What is that energy?
Yeah.
Where is all this coming from?
Yeah.
Trust your divine intelligence. And if you don't want to, that's fine. But like, I've also gone so deep. I came back from Egypt this summer. It was a profound trip for me. Tapping into our one collective consciousness. And you hear that so much about our one collective consciousness. But what happens to like actually drop into it and feel that you are me and I am you? The whole world becomes your oyster.
Mm-hmm.
The whole world is conspiring in your divine, authentic truth.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So like, why not just be honest about it? And if somebody wants to think I'm nuts, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think the part that's interesting is we all like kind of know, I heard this thing the other day that really resonated with me. And it was like, truth is like a tuning fork. You feel it when you hear it.
Yes.
And you feel it. And that's why you get the little chills. And maybe at different points in your life, you're not open enough to hear it. But I increasingly am feeling the exact same way. And I think it's important that we interweave the really tactical and quantitative like business with the things that feel a little bit more qualitative, harder to touch. And I think, what's interesting about you is you've spoken truth to power multiple times when it was not very convenient. And, like I remember in 2020, when you had a group of friends here who were, people love to think that fame is great in many ways, but, you had this group of friends who you weren't really you weren't trying to change anybody's mind. You guys were kind of private about it as far as I saw, but you had beliefs about vaccines and basically questions, some questions about them. And I remember reading this article that was like
Rolling Stone.
Yeah. Was it Rolling Stone?
Yeah, they wrote a beautiful article about me.
Okay. So explain what happened, because I remember it profoundly and thinking, what a bizarre thing for Rolling Stone to focus on.
James Van Der Beek's wife speaking conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me start by saying this. 2020 was a time of activating our shadow self.
Mm-hmm.
I had been divinely instructed to not speak the way that I was speaking. And what really activated me, and I think one of the things that they wrote about, if I was not tapping in deeper, I would have probably been like, she's nuts, But I wrote about somebody that was getting shushed.
Yeah.
And now we actually have the information that people were actually getting censored, and the real stories were actually being censored and removed from social media. Now, I felt like I was screaming to the wind because I was watching somebody post a story and then watching it get deleted and then watching them have to create new accounts.
Yep.
And these are all things that are okay to say now.
Yep.
Okay? We're being told they're rare.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I think the thing is we need to all be a little curious. And so, yeah, I'm just like, whatever, woman. Like, it was a woman that wrote the article. I started following her for a little bit, and I'm like, she's trying her best.
Yes. Send them love.
Just let her do her best. I think if we look deep enough, we're all going to find skeletons in the closet. Oh, you're going to find tons about me.
Of course.
Things that the things that somebody would say, and I'd be like, damn, girl, like, you should have woke up a little during that period. Okay? That's fine. So we got into a culture of trying really hard to discredit the person when the information was ringing a truth, because that tuning fork within was getting really powerful. So let's make sure we're discrediting the vessel of the truth.
Yep.
And so that, I believe, was a real strong tactic to bring people down.
Yeah.
So that article was done to discredit the vehicle, which I was not in my shining glory with my delivery systems. I wasn't. And it was very reactive. So my frequency is sharing fear. Like, that's really not actually what I want to do. But there was a lot of truth coming from here. There was a lot of truth coming from here. And I could improve upon the way that I was sharing it. But I had, I'll tell you, hundreds of people thank me for the article. They're like, I read that and I was like, thank you. Thank you, people, very unexpectedly. And almost nobody say anything negative to me.
Interesting.
People that you would be very surprised. I was like, all right.
Well, now they're all moving to Texas.
Well, listen, like a lot of the things that were deemed conspiracy theories have actually panned out as truths.
Well, I mean, look at Zuckerberg has come out now and said, actually, I wish we hadn't censored so many people around the vaccine. And also the government asked us to.
And also, the truth is, conspiracy theory itself was something utilized by the CIA to put people in their place. And whoever is utilizing this term, it's being utilized as a way to demean somebody's curiosity about where the truth is coming from. But in 2020, you know, I got to play a little devil's advocate here. Some of the things people were saying, I think, were quite far-fetched from the truth. And so, you know, conspiracy theory can be a little spark that sets off a bonfire in ways that are really not necessarily helpful to further our culture along. But I think if we just churn it into, let's be curious.
Yeah.
You know, I've grown up a lot since 2020. I think all of us have. It's like, let's just spin things into curiosity and what feels like truth and what feels like a distraction.
Yeah. And I think it should always be okay to question things. Doesn't mean you have to believe anything.
Society does not move forward without curiosity and questions.
Yep.
It doesn't.
Yep.
And so we will always be, if we're like, science, science, science. Science is a beautiful thing, and we're limited by however far science has gone up until that point.
Yeah.
So what's going to propel us further? The curiosity. Like, let's look into it. Let's study it. And I always like, when it's, you know, when we talk about truth again as a tuning fork, if you don't feel like your tuning fork is clean enough to feel truth, what you can get curious about is where life feels sticky. So like, where's your, let's talk about sex, sexual expression coming from? Is it coming from a place that feels sticky, or do you feel in your divine erotic truth? Like, where's that energetic coming from? Is it sticky? Is it coming from shame? This is where our babies come from, right? So let's get really curious with where sticky energy is, because we all have it.
Yeah.
And what's the sticky energy holding me down from seeing what's going on? And a lot of times, sticky energy is just distraction from trauma.
Yeah.
And so when we get to a place where we can start really looking at that and then unwinding our trauma and letting ourselves actually feel comfortable in feeling the things that we need to unwind, then we can have this really deep collective healing, which I believe we're having.
Yeah, it does definitely feel like there's change in the air.
Yeah.
Let's think about that. So for young women, I think young women today desperately do want partnership and somebody to be with. But they have a lot of negative commentary coming around. Men aren't great, there's no good men, all these things. If you were to, change somebody's mind, or what did you do when you started to change your mind? How did you started questioning where those stories came from? Mm-hmm. What else have you seen women do to reopen themselves to partnership?
Well, let's take this moment to just do a visual, right? So if you close your eyes and you let the animal instincts come in, like relationships, the difference is you're sexually intimate versus, a roommate. Mm-hmm. So, well, not all relationships, but when you're making babies and you're choosing a life partner, so you look and you see all these people and their animal behaviors wanting to pounce on you, which is great. Like, you're wanting to pounce back. You're an animal. We're, creatures with these desires. But then if you just sort of calm that system just a little bit, you will see the needle in the haystack clearly looking at you. And it's not hard to find when you're looking for it. And when you know and you believe it's there, and you walk directly to each other and you connect. But there's always going to be the needle in a haystack, and your frequency will draw you right to each other. You don't have to play the game.
Interesting.
You don't have to play the game.
The swiping and the...
Yeah. Well, if you want to, maybe that's how you're going to find the eyes. I don't know if you can see the visual the same way I did, but it's like there's just... Everybody feels like a shark when they're not your one.
Yeah.
You know? But your person will be there. You just have to meet them. You have to be willing to see them.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to like look through and know they're there.
Interesting. How did you because you and James have been married for 14 years,
yeah,
right? How did you two meet?
We met in Jaffa.
I don't even know what that is. Really?
Yeah.
Are you Jewish?
No, we were both on a spiritual trip. We both studied Kabbalah. Our teachers were really close. And James tells this story way better than me. But I came up to his teacher to ask him a question while James was saying he's ready to like meet his woman, meet his wife. He had gone through a divorce and was still going through a divorce, actually. But he was ready for like that serious relationship, and I interrupted that conversation.
Like, I'm literally here.
And so it took him like, I remember he was holding me in the water in the Mediterranean Sea, like, what are you looking for in a relationship? And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, God, this guy's amazing. But like, I said, I'm not looking for a relationship. I actually wasn't looking. And there he was, and it took him not very long to
figure that out,
to work me down. And I think the magic of, you know, when you can see somebody that like he was looking right at me, there's like an openness, but there wasn't. And I find this with my friends a lot when they meet a super special somebody, they're not like desperately yearning for.
Yeah.
You know, it's this sort of blossoming that happens inside where you feel good about who you are.
Yeah.
And you're comfortable in it. And of course, there's always exceptions. You know, people meet each other and grow together all the time. But I think it's the first thing that you have to recognize is that, yeah, there are special men out there. You may have met a lot that aren't the ones for you, but maybe they're super special to somebody else.
Yeah.
And maybe like it's when two people have the right chemistry, they make each other feel really special. You know?
It's a great point. I mean, I'm sure I always joke with my husband, you know, he always says that he was a saint before me. There were no women before me, but I'm like, you were a Navy SEAL in San Diego. Like, come on, let's be honest about what's happening there. Many fruits of the loins. But I think the beautiful part about it is, you know, if you were to talk to a lot of the women before me with him, I'm sure they aren't his biggest fan.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's always been very kind and honest to a fault, sometimes badly. Yeah. But I'm sure it's the same with James. It's like, of course and with me. I'm sure if you talk to some of my exes, they'd be like, that broad was crazy.
Same.
You know?
Oh, and I definitely was.
Yeah.
But it's like, what do you bring out in each other? And even like weaving in different ways. You had said so many people get a divorce when they go through the miscarriage.
Yeah. When
James and I went through those back to back, and then his mom passed away, we have had years of grieving and wanting to kill each other. Like, it's like this deep love, snuggle, and then like,
yeah.
Because we need a safe place to take out our feelings. And unfortunately, a lot of times we do that with our partner.
That's true.
Yeah. And so, you know, we have been through so much since we moved to Texas that has made us grow in these incredible ways. But also it's like relationships, you really have to show up.
You do have to show up.
You really have to show up.
Yeah. Chris is incredible at making me show up because I'm totally avoidant often.
Yeah.
And I can really get into work and focus on everything else. And he is like, we are here. We will have the hard conversations. And that's the most important thing that we can ever do.
Yeah.
And so everything else kind of doesn't matter if the two of us aren't working. And it's a real testament to him I think, the relationship that we have today in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I think in the beginning, I was trying to think, with young people today, I'm like, God, I don't think that there's a better gift than finding a person that you can do life with and realizing it's going to be super hard. There's no rainbows and sunshines. You know that more than anything. You have 6 kids. I don't even have kids and it's hard.
Yeah.
But what a gift.
Yeah.
And I want that for more people.
Was it uncomfortable for you to show up when he pulled you in and made you show up?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm like, we'll just deal with that later. Shove that down deep inside. Yeah, that's not how my family deals. I mean, it comes back to a lot of our, how we're socialized.
Yeah.
So for my family, it was like feelings, we don't talk about them aggressively. We're kind and calm, even if we don't feel kind and calm. We don't say the quiet part out loud. And he's not like that.
Same with James. It was the most uncomfortable expansion.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Yeah. So is he the more like, we're going to talk about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Because now I don't implode.
Yeah. 100%. Interesting.
But yeah. And I share all of this because there's this whole idea of, there's no good guys, but it's like, what's the communication and how is everybody communicating? And are you showing up to work through things together?
Yeah.
It's not always going to be your person to work through things. Or I found 2 people that have incredible relationships and then they just find, oh, this is done now. We've actually feel pretty complete. This was super magical and a little painful, but it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And I've seen people do that in such beautiful ways.
Yeah, yes, 100%. I mean, I was not quite like that with my ex when I got divorced.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to be, but just the 2 of us were young and not very evolved in that way.
Yeah.
But now I think, there's just so many ways to not villainize the other person, which is kind of what you're saying. It's like, hey, maybe this other person isn't a terrible, narcissistic, bad human.
Yeah.
They're just not right for you and you're not right for them. And I think if we could have more of that in the world and less of the casual, loose sex, who cares about your other person, men are bad, women are good, the world would be a little bit better. And part of this podcast is pushing back on this philosophy. And I think it's really important also to show the beauty of motherhood, which we don't really get to talk about that much. Unless you're listening to a motherhood podcast, and who's listening to a motherhood podcast?
They're not.
Mothers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And here's the thing with the beauty of motherhood. So I feel like I'm the phone call that a lot of people make when they get pregnant or, they're feeling isolated in their motherhood.
That's what I've heard about you.
I do not think society supports motherhood. I actually think it is setting mothers up for failure. And it's really devastating.
How?
Everybody calls me and tells me how lonely they are. And they can't take a shower. And some people can take a deep pleasure in that, but everybody needs time for themselves too.
Yeah.
What happened to being in the same house together? What happened to having families in the same house together or living like a village? We all have, at our best, our own pool and our own sauna and our own kitchen and our own big bedroom or, And sometimes I see these families not being able to afford all those things, and they are living together, and they feel supported, and they take care of each other's children. And I'm like, who is the joke on?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this so separately? I was in the middle of Beverly Hills living the life, right?
Yep.
And it's like, I want to wake up and do breakfast with a sister and their kids. And, so I came here and community was so important to me. And we moved on to a spot where I could have friends move on. I have my sister and her son at the house right now. Do you know how psyched my son Jeremiah is to wake up and see his 3-year-old cousin every morning?
Yeah.
We have 2 more mornings of that. But why not more? Because we all have to work to pay our property taxes so we can get medical insurance and so that we can pay for more roads and pay for more separation and pay for more trips. But what happened to like just being together? I'm so sick of this culture, honestly. Like I'm so sick of it. And I'm like, okay, but I need to show up for the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I need to show up for the game. So I'm the person that could absolutely live in a yurt in the middle of a forest.
I get that vibe from you.
I'm so serious. I will build my hobbit house into the ground.
No shoes.
No shoes. Live next to me. We will do all the homemade things together. I like, you know, I'm super down to be the boss bitch too. I love working and I love that kind of thing, but like, not if it's taking away from my time with my kids.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a giant movement right now of coming back to sort of traditional values. I think women everywhere, like on Instagram, and we're seeing the sourdoughs with the pansies on top of them, and we're seeing the little apothecaries in the kitchen, and we're kind of like coming back full circle to this, like.
But they're exhausted.
That is the problem.
They're exhausted.
Like, I don't have time to make a pumpkin sourdough cake.
Here's the thing. Like, not all of them are exhausted.
I'm pretty tired.
Some people have figured it out.
Yeah.
I love cooking. I would love to cook. But do you know what else has to happen too? Cleaning all the shit that we're buying with all the money that we're making and having too much abundance.
Yeah.
That's a freaking job.
So how do we, so how do people start bringing this in their lives? Like I've watched, for instance, I don't know you as well, but I've watched like Gabby, for instance, another girlfriend of ours, does an incredible job of like Shabbat every Friday, everybody's invited over.
Yeah.
She does an incredible job of saying like, no, just come stay with us and like bring some food and like, you know, whatever. And we hang out there for like an entire weekend. And I think especially because the generation right below us, they're like, they don't want to call, they want to text one another. They've kind of gotten away from being close because technology has inserted itself. And I think it's like, if young people, if you could like be the person who's the center, doesn't even mean you have to have the house, but just invite other people over, bring them into the mix more frequently, and try to offload some of the work.
Yes.
Because otherwise it is exhausting because you're lonely and you're doing everything.
Yes. This is what everybody calls and tells me. I'm like, and God bless the Gabbies because I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Come over. Come spend the weekend. Come spend the week. Just come over. My favorite thing is when all our cabin rooms are taken. Now, not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
You know, I see Elon's book here, or this book about Elon, and I'll say one fun fact about Elon.
Yeah.
My friend Bree, her daughter sleeps in the same room with her son, and Elon takes over their room when he's in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, he's very communal, right?
He last I talked to him, he was sleeping at a friend's house. It's like we can have all the things. It doesn't mean we need to have them all by ourselves.
That's such a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Kim and I, a good friend of Kim, we do sleepovers whenever her husband are out of town. And I'm like a 38-year-old woman doing a sleepover.
But why not?
But it's actually one of our favorite moments.
Yes. When
Bring back sleepovers.
When my husband leaves, I invite friends to come over. And it's like when the cat's away, the mice will play.
They just like flowers and wine and like...
Or I have all my kids in my room with me and we do that. And I think this like merging to more of a village life is a really beautiful ideal, but not everybody is supported in being able to just do this, right? Yeah. So if you see somebody in your life that's not supported in being able to do this, invite them in.
Yeah, bring them over.
Bring them on over. And if they want, you know, it's like I'm not here to change other people or decide how they live, but I'll live the way that I want to live the best that I can. And if that inspires somebody, then it does.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Like, that's where I'm at this point in life.
Yeah, it's a better way to be. I want to end talking a little bit about school.
Okay.
So you homeschool your kids, right?
Not anymore.
Mixture. 100% not.
Tell me
what's going on.
Yeah. So in LA, I started a school at my house. And then when I got pregnant with my 5th child, I was like, this is not happening in here anymore. And it was 8 kids. People took their first day of school photos at my door. And I loved it. And the kids were learning Korean and Spanish and singing, and it was a lot of fun. My kids don't have all good memories of it because they didn't want structure in their own house. So there's things with that as well. And then they went to another school that was similar at somebody else's house after that. It was a beautiful experience for them. And we've also done homeschooling, and I say that lightly. Yeah. There's a whole sort of movement to unschool as well.
Right.
Which is like, let's create that culture where we live together and kids sort of let their curiosities guide the way. I think it works for some, but not all. Then during COVID, I had my kids in some sort of schooling program that wasn't working, and then I had them home. And what I found was, and here's how there's like a little bit of a surrender to live with the world, not just new earth or against the ways we all have to weave together, right?
Yeah.
And some of my kids were wanting a school experience.
Yeah.
And so, it's like part of the parenting thing is I know what I want for you. I'm going to give that to you. And when you get curious about something else, if it's not dangerous, I'm going to honor that. Yeah. So my oldest started public school this year. And for me, that is huge. I did public school. I hated it. I felt like I was forced to learn for 8 hours a day, things I was very uninterested in. And the whole reason somebody gets passionate about alternative educations for their children is probably because they didn't have an experience that felt nurturing to them.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I provide everything I can so that my kids can have a different experience. And then I got a text, one of the best texts ever from my daughter, is she has a phone, which I think delay that phone as long as we can. But I get a text from her because I'm going to go pick her up. And she was like, Mom, I just want to say thank you. I'm having the time of my life at public school. And I really appreciate you having the conversations with me and honoring my exploration of what I want to do. It was the most mature text ever. And I was like, that's my child that I had in the hospital that taught me to surrender a little bit to whatever the system that wanted to work through was. And guess what? It's working out for her.
That's great.
I think there's so many people that are like, they think of me and they think crunchy, granola, alternative. And that's all true. But the one thing that is the most important to me is to also like meet my children where they're at and honor them. And I'm having to play some catch up for some of the kids that are seeing how awesome a time Olivia's having in school, and now they're wanting the same thing. Maybe she's loving it so much because she didn't have it. Exactly. So, it's like, it's just a different experience for her. Football games, studying, she loves it. I'm like, regurgitating information for a test. Are you conceptually understanding it? No? You're still having fun? Okay. Like, let's still make sure we're conceptually understanding things as well. She's almost 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough age in general, too.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing in supporting my kids as they're wanting to branch out and experience, the system, is that I just keep them curious thinkers and critical thinkers. So you heard something. How does it sit with you? Is the truth tuning fork going off? Does it feel sticky? What's the energetics behind it? I mean, we've been learning false history for so long, right? So, question, get curious.
Interesting. Is there a process that you guys have? Like, for instance, my husband and I each night, we do like 2 things. We love to have a glass of wine together or
Yeah.
some sort of drink, but we're never allowed to have the same cheers. So each night it's like, let's cheers to something. And you don't have to be ridiculous or over the top about it, but like, let's have a little intentional moment of something that could be very habitual and sort of habit forming that you don't think about much. And then he also does a really great thing each day where instead of just like, how's your day, honey? Which always sort of annoyed me.
Yeah.
But instead we really usually at the end of the day talk about one thing we learned. Like, tell me, like, what did you learn today? Like, what's interesting? What are you bringing back? Because I didn't get to see you all day. So tell me, is there something you do like that with your kids or with your family?
I feel like those conversations are just birthed organically because there are some days where with my 6 kids, I'm like, I just want to be able to like
every day
answer your one question over there, or the one of you that wants like a snuggle in private time, and the world is not supporting that moment right now. So when I can get them, I'm really savoring them.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing for me is to be curious. You know, it sounds like your husband and your husband have curiosity about each other. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, where are we at with boys or girls, or like, are we crushing? What's the conversation? What's feeling hard for you? What's, like just having an open conversation with them and not judging responses is going to be so big for keeping that open communication. But you can like intuit who's needing more from you and create a space for it. So I like, it's just not just a husband.
Doesn't
for
get
me.
to be a one size fits all.
It's not. It's like, oh, that one needs extra. Something's going on. Come here. It's like having the octopus tentacles out and like feeling, you come here. And we have like a Sunday thing that we just enacted where I realized they're all getting older and they want to know what's going on in the week, and they were not receiving that sort of structure from me. I need some of you. I need some of the structure queen to be moving through me. So I'm like, okay. So Sunday dinners are family dinners. Everybody's home. We're going to go over the schedule for the week. Right. Does anybody have, and we do these little family things, for example, like around the table. What's important for you this fall? Like, is there something that you really want to see, really want to happen? And my son is always like, he wants the fall decor. He wants the fall smells. He'll even describe the experience he wants with the way the light fills the room onto the table.
Wow.
He gets very detailed with the smells and the thing.
Yeah, like the future actor creative there.
Oh, all of them.
All of them?
All of them want in on the industry, by the way. Wow. As of now, we'll let that, see what happens. And then Olivia will be like, oh, I want to go to the football games, and but it's like, what's important to you, and let's see how we can honor this experience, and so
I love that. I can't even. Do you want to have more kids? Or are we done at 6?
James had surgery.
Oh. You're like after. That seems like sufficient. You've done your job. You've helped Elon out, repopulated the earth. I know that's an end to him. We've gotten past that. I guess where I kind of wanted to close it out is, if there is somebody listening about having a hard time maybe getting pregnant, maybe having a hard time tapping into a lot of the feminine abundance you've had in that way, what would you tell them? Where would you steer them? What books should they be reading? Who should they be listening to?
I think the first thing they need to know is, my life looks great, and I've had a very gifted, blessed life. I fuck up all the time. I have had really hard days. I have snapped. I have felt like shit, and I feel so incredible and amazing and beautiful. And so the first thing I just want to do is acknowledge a woman where she's at and know that she's not alone. I think that is the first thing. Because if we all understand that we all have struggles, because we're not living as a village anymore, we are not intimate with each other's struggles. That's one of the things that we're missing. Yeah. You're having a bad fucking day. Let's get into it. Yeah. Like, I can see it because I see you every day. We can't do that. We're hiding behind these lives on social media. And the reality is, if my kids are having a bad day or I'm struggling, it may not be appropriate for my whole family for me to share that on social media either. So no fault to anybody. It's like, okay, we've had a hard year. There's been a really difficult struggle we've been moving through, and it's not at my capacity to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
You know? So the first thing is you're not alone. The second thing isn't a book. The second thing is be with yourself. Be with yourself. Have you allowed yourself time in bed to sit with how fucking depressed you feel? Have you said, okay, light body, I want you to come through me right now, and I want you to hold all the pain so that the pain doesn't feel like it has to drive anymore. I want you to sit on the bench with me and let me move through the tears and breathe, and I need you to guide me. Guide me. Bring the right books. Bring the right people. Bring the process of moving through the emotional blockages. Bring the light activation in my body. And from there, I think Spirit Babies by Walter Mackey-Chen is an amazing book. I just love it. And it's not everybody's flavor. So if it's not your flavor, invite your flavor in. You know, that's my flavor. I love that shit. I love it. Yeah. And yeah, but that's the one thing. It's like, are you spending time with yourself? Are you giving your emotions, the pain that you've experienced in life, breathing room with a light driver? So where it's like, okay, this doesn't control me, but I let it, I know how to hold it and just let that happen. And also make a phone call. If you haven't made a phone call, find the 3 people that you're going to feel really, really safe sharing everything with, the hard stuff, and get on a text thread. I need a Zoom call. I need tea. I need a womb massage. I need to cry. What do you need? But first you have to know what you need. You have to be with yourself.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Because half the time in business too, that's why it doesn't work, is because you don't actually know what you want.
Yeah, if your first thing is a book,
yeah,
you are already in somebody else's complete energetic field of what they think you need.
Oh, it's very true.
It's just not you.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to ask yourself the tough questions before you can. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good reminder. I always go back to the Oracle of Delphi too. Know thyself. And I think that is the most beautiful thing you could give any human, is try to figure out who you are.
Try to figure out who you are.
This was so good.
I'm so happy to be here.
Now, where do you like everybody to go find you? I know.
Oh boy.
Instagram. Your podcast?
Instagram is great right now. My Instagram handle is Vander Kimberly. I've actually not been doing my podcast recently. I found it was so incredible. It's been so amazing. And I am actually creating a newborn course because
we need that.
Yes, I have so much.
Create a pregnancy course too, like how to get pregnant?
I definitely should. I started a new company that's going to hold all of this. I need a team like you have down there. I got to work that out.
I know we should have started with this.
Well, you know, but then I think
come back on when you have it.
Yes, I'll come back on when I have it, because I do believe that it is those newborn days that set the seed for how you show up as a mom for yourself. Yeah. For your baby, how you're putting boundaries and expectations on the people in your life, and getting very clear on your needs and what's needed, and how to start listening to that truth tuning fork within your own body, how to gather information and then let your intuition come through, fold that in. These are all things I'm including in the newborn course, as well as little things that if I would have known on the first or second baby and didn't learn it on my 5th or 6th baby, it would have changed my life. Like there was one tip that I'm going to share, that this woman wrote me. I have a daycare and you changed my life with this. And that one tip is this. There are many cultures that don't birth a newborn. And there are some pressure points where if you just like touch little spots, it helps the newborn just naturally burp up gas. So like just reimagining everything we've ever learned of like That's okay. Sometimes I feel like I need that right here, or my kids need that. But when I shared this other way of just like rubbing the back gently like this or holding your hand, you can like feel the energy of the burp moving up and through. It's so interesting.
Whoa.
This woman was like, all my babies with acid reflux stopped projectile vomiting across the entire room all the time. The amount of moms that wrote me on that little thing, I'm like, that took me 5 kids.
Yeah.
5 kids.
What's even like the face massage on babies?
Oh, yeah.
I've been reading about that. I don't know why I'm reading about that. First of all, it looks amazing. Every time I see that baby getting rubbed,
Oh, yeah.
next.
Yes.
But there are so many things. It's overwhelming. I mean, I'll be hollering at you once I get lucky, hopefully enough to have that happen. But you're right. It's overwhelming, all the things they teach you.
It's overwhelming. So again, how do we bring it back to self? If that baby picked you, and then also if somebody's hearing this and they already have children, I fucked everything up with my first child. Okay? She did not sleep at night. She was very colicky. I didn't know what to do about that. 3 hours a night, she was crying. When she woke up in the morning, I put her on a swing in front of Yo Gabba Gabba. That is the opposite of what I would do right now. And that child is so resilient and so loving and so tender and so present and so self-aware that like there's this whole thing that we have to get it all perfect as well. And we also have to throw that away because the reality is we are all such divine, perfect creatures. We're here for the earth experience. Yep. We are here to mess up. We're here to learn from it. We are here for this like exploration of life. And I think we just have to remember that because this like perfection mentality to have it all right or to even have it all natural and have it all homeschooled and blah, 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 it's just all pressure that we don't need.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think you need a glass of whiskey, even though I try not to drink too much.
Or mezcal.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm really
I agree.
into mezcal lately. Actually.
Love it.
Yeah.
I don't really drink anymore, but a little sake or mezcal on the rare occasion is perfect.
I love that. Also, I didn't realize, this is the dumbest thing, but that tequila can be 51% tequila and 49% whatever else. Did you know that?
Oh, the food. Don't give me started.
Okay, well, that would be a whole
second pop. Industry. Oh, the mezcal
is clean. It has to be 100% mezcal.
Yeah. So my friend has a mezcal company, Kimosabi. It's great.
Okay, I'll have to try it. Right. Vander Kimberly.
Yeah.
Is that right on all the socials?
It is. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. You for not having tried. The second thing I do is I say every year has a name. So if you go back through my actual goal journal every year, I name my year first because I think names are really powerful. And if you name it, you can frame it. And if you frame it, then you can actually achieve it. And so, for instance, I wrote down some of them for you, and I'll show you what it looks like here. 2024, I called my full send year. And after I write a name for my year, I write a sentence on it, which is what I think you should do next. So that year for me, it was the year I fully send it on being myself, taking big swings, on periods of sprints and rests, and doing it my way with joy and fun and brilliance. So what is your year? In 2025, this year was the year of flow. And that was more of what we want, less of what we don't. So in the past, I had written down, these were my words. It's kind of fun to look at them today. In the past, I had listened to too many others. I'd done all the work myself. I hadn't given the hard feedback in the moment. I'd been the one pushed and shepherding everyone. And this year I said no more. Now I am the one who gets to receive and have others push for me. I'm no longer in a fight or flight and instead able to conduct the orchestra without playing every instrument. So 2025 was my year of pros and flow. And you saw that probably in my business. I hired a bunch of pros to do things that I was doing every single aspect of it before, and it was feeling like a little bit too much. The year before that, I was okay with it. I needed to do it all because I was fully sending it. So this year for you, what is your year? Name it. Tell us in the comments. What is one sentence example of how you want to see that year for you? Then I like to steal this idea from Elon Musk for my third one. He calls it first principles and backwards timelines. So here's how he sets his goals. Musk starts with what physics says is possible, not what society believes. And I love this. I say to my company right now too, somebody will come to me and they'll say, hey, we can't do X, Y, Z. And I'll say, hold on. I hate that word can't, by the way. Be careful if you ever say can't to yourself. And I'll say, by can't, do you mean, is it physically impossible, aka against the laws of physics? Is it illegal to do it, aka you'd go to jail? Or is it contractually obligated? You don't do it? Otherwise, that's just a preference or a resource issue. Can't only means it's illegal, it's physically impossible, or it is against some sort of contractual terms we have written down in ink or blood. And if it is not those three things, then can't's not the right word. Choosing not to could be the right word, but it's not can't. And so Musk starts with physics. That is first principle. Then he sets a target outcome. So he would say that reverse engineers every dependency, backward to present. Meaning, if he says, I want to take a rocket to go to the moon, I want to make life multi-planetary, as he would say, then he would map, okay, I need rockets. Then I might need reusable ones because it'd be way too expensive if we're not reusing them. I need to land that rocket if I want to reuse it, which means that I need to cut costs, which means that I need to manufacture these bad things, which means I need this much capital or money. So he turned the biggest goal, multi-planetary, into the first constraint. Now, how do you do this for you? I would do the same thing. First principles. Let's say it's, I want to make $1 million this year. I would say, okay, maybe that's big enough. Maybe it's not. But first principles, I want to free my family financially from ever having to work again. Maybe that's $1 million. Maybe that's 10 million. Okay, now work backwards. Well, how much money do I need? How much money do I spend? What is my skill stack? How long would it take me to get there? Could I do it faster? What mechanisms are real to get there? Instead of just telling me what you want, why don't you tell me what is the path to get the thing that you want? Then I'm going to make you tell me, what are you willing to sacrifice to get it? Here's the truth about owning a business. You work hard to build something real, but without the right insurance, one accident or mistake can cost you weeks of headaches, lost revenue, and sleepless nights. Next Insurance gives small business owners instant online coverage so you can protect what you've built. No long forms, no overpriced policies, no waiting around. Just fast, simple protection designed for your business. Policies start at $29 a month, and you get an instant certificate of insurance so you can win bigger contracts and operate like a true pro. So whether you're a creator, contractor, consultant, or Main Street operator, Next keeps you covered because risk comes with ownership, but getting protected shouldn't be one of them. Check out nextinsurance.com/Codie and protect what you've built today. And so let's talk about how I do these goals in my life. I like to categorize them. I'm not so unidirectional as Elon Musk, where I'm like multiplanetary or die. I have a couple that are important to me. My first one is always my relationship. So this is literally what some of mine were last year. It was, we're happy and we argue well. I think it's ridiculous to think you're not going to argue. Just learn to argue fairly. Walk. I want to go on a walk every day together. I think that's like a beautiful moment that we have. I want to have, quote unquote, our version of work-life balance, which means we live in Austin for most of the year and we have a house by the water and we can go there in aggregate for 2 to 3 months a year. Then work. That's the second most important to me after my relationship. That means I want to hit a certain revenue target. It means this podcast, I wanted that to become a top 50 podcast in the world. By the way, yeah. We did it. I wanted to have a best-selling book. I literally wrote down a book that is a New York Times bestseller and I sell 1 million copies and have a sold-out launch date in person with 200K people signed up. And you know what else happened? We fucking did it. And so you write them down and it's fun to go look back and see what you did or didn't. Travel. I said, I want to live somewhere with a view of the ocean for 1 to 3 months. I did that in aggregate. I wanted to go on a bucket list trip. We did. We went Nicaragua surfing. I wanted to tour around the country, create a movement. We did that with Main Street Millionaire. And then I think you should have some fun in life. So my last category is fun. And so for me, that might be some silly things even. I wanted to feel more sexy and feminine. Look at the shoulder. See, look at that. Fucking nailing it. I wanted to play with makeup and hair. I've actually never cared about any of this stuff, but I thought I was like maybe becoming a bit too masculine. So I thought, let's get back into this feminine nature. I wanted to be sleeping really well and wake up happy and refreshed and not anxious and thrilled with my life, which means that I drink less now because red wine makes me crazy. I don't know about you guys. Tell me in the comments. I fucking love it, but I don't sleep well. And then I really wanted to focus on my enjoying the journey. I don't know if you ever feel like you've achieved some of the things you want in life, but you don't enjoy the journey to achievement. I didn't like that. So I was like, I want to be really happy. I want to feel like I have so much to accomplish, but I'm enjoying it and thankful for it. Okay, so now you've got your buckets. I like having 3 to 5. That's all I allow. The next thing though, you got to figure out what are the things you want to say no to. Say no to the things that aren't a fuck yes. That was really big for me. And so my say no list included like things I wouldn't do with my mindset and things I wouldn't do with my health, which comes back to health being no more alcohol. I didn't nail that one, you guys. I didn't nail it. If you follow me on the internet, you probably know that. I said I wanted to do hard 75 again. Also did not nail that. And then I wanted no more bread or processed food. And that, my friends, that's the tragedy. That has absolutely not been accomplished. So, okay, didn't nail all my goals last year, but I nailed more of them than I did before. Then I write a more of, less of list. What does this mean? Well, every year I want to talk about the things that I loved that I did and the things that I wish I would like a little bit of less of that. And so Warren Buffett kind of famously did this another way. He called it the anti-goal method. So how he sets goals is he uses a 5-25 rule, which is he would say to you, write 25 long-term goals, circle the top 5 of yours, and avoid the other 20 at all costs. And he believes that more goals equal more failure. And I love this story. He was talking about his pilot. And his pilot was saying all these things that he wanted to accomplish this year. And Buffett had him do this. He said, write down these 25, circle the top 5. And he was saying, okay, well, how are you going to choose which one of these to do next? And the pilot said, well, I'm going to do this one, this one, this one. And he just took a big pen and just X'd out all 20 of his goals that weren't in the top 5 and said, if you're actually serious about the top 5, you have to be completely relentless of cutting the bottom 20. This is called ruthless focus. So every year I write a list of things I want more of in the year and a list of things that I want less of. Because the truth of the matter is you can't keep adding always. The world requires subtraction. This last year, some of mine were less respect seeking. You try to get people to respect you who you honestly don't respect at all. You get upset when somebody belittles your accomplishment. Silly. Partnership deals. I wanted less of those this year. Like last year, I did really, really 2 bad partnership deals that cost me 7 figures and time. And I was like, I am so tired of being a workhorse for somebody else's reward. So no new friends if they want partnerships. And then chosen struggle. Like, do you ever feel like you get off on hard things being the way? This year I was like, no, I'm going to see what it's like to paddle with, not against the current. So those are my less of. What are yours? Then my more of. It's like, I want to be more feminine. I want to take big swings. I really focused on the fact that I was going to try a few more big swings and sprints and then rests. And then fun. I talk a lot about serious things, money, ownership, saving our country. But I want to focus on the fact that we can have fun while we're doing it. And so like some small things here, even at the company this week, we had this big event, we had top tier attendance. And so I was like, how about attendee award? Well, really anything, you just learn about theoretical ways to do something. I think the education system is broken. And I think young people feel like that too. Tell me in the comments if you feel like that too. And so I'm like, fuck that. Let's teach people to buy and build things for 1/100th of the cost and have them do it live, which is what we do at Contrarian Community in the SMB boardroom. So first, I want you to think about like, what's a big, huge problem you could solve for people? I think people should have lovely landscaping, and their landscaping right now, their guys are always late. They're always, struggling to actually come on time. They don't do what they say they're going to do, whatever. You pick your big problem. And then the first thing you do after that is you figure out, from that big problem, what am I actually an expert in that I could go solve it? Do I understand landscaping? Am I a dentist? Or do I understand consumer packaged goods? Do I understand how to buy businesses? Find the thing that you are already uniquely skilled to talk about, build about, etc. Because I think a lot of the problems of why content doesn't hit for people on the internet and why you don't have a trusted brand and why you don't make money on the internet and why nobody's listening to you is because, God, I wish I had the confidence of a 24-year-old life coach. Like, are you actually an expert in the things that you're talking about, or are you stretching it? And I think the truth of the matter is that most people are talking about stuff online because it's a trend, because they think they should talk about it, not because it's something they're uniquely skilled at. Find the thing that you have unique skill and advantage at. You can either be the expert, aka, I don't know, I've been in private equity and investing for 15 plus years. I've bought a bunch of businesses. I've invested in a bunch of businesses. I don't know a lot about many things, but I know some things about that. So I do believe I'm an expert there. That's one way. Or you can document it. You can say, I don't know anything about buying businesses right now, but I'm going to document my whole process about how I learned. So you either have done it or you document it. Those are the two ways to do it. And then the next level I want you to think about is, I want you to be like this guy, which is, I don't want you to be talking about how big your target market is. I want you to go, yeah, buddy, mine's a lot smaller. I want you to actually niche down. And let me tell you why. There's a reason that Amazon started as a bookstore. There's a reason that when people get big online, it's often because they started in something really, really small and specific. A bad niche is one that is really big when you're starting out because you can't be an expert enough in it. So let's say a bad niche right now might be business for you. A niche of small business is okay. How about just small business owners? Okay, that's better. How about laundromat owners? Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. I want you to try to go as niche as humanly possible because the cool thing about the internet is you got buddies online. If you're into Japanese anime with female protagonists that have fairy tale specifications, there's a Facebook group for that. So the more niche you can go, the more subject matter expertise you can have, and also the cooler takes you can have, and people can become true fans. The way we tell if our content is niche enough is what I call the Where's Waldo strategy. I want you to be specific. I want you to be small. I want you to select a very targeted market. And so I think about, where's Waldo? How come we can find this guy in like these crazy images where everything's going down? Well, it's because he's got this red, white striped shirt every time. He's got these blue pants. He's got this kind of crazy beanie. Every single time I know what to look at him because he's very specific, small, and select. And I want you to think about your niche the exact same way. The second thing, once you've nailed your niche, is I want you to think about, so you've got this big problem that you talked about that you want to try to solve for people. Now, how do you turn that problem into a product? How do you monetize it and make money off of it? Well, that's something we call the problem to product loop. Most people see problems and they think about obstacles. They're like, this is in my way. I want you to, every time you see a problem in your niche, instead say, that's the opportunity. And let me show you what I mean by that. When you find a problem, then the first way to turn it into a product is just to make content. I want to buy a business. They talked about a letter of intent. I don't know how to do that. So what do? I create a video and a sample letter of intent. Cool. I got a video and a lead magnet. What about another person might say, I don't know how to talk to sellers. So what do? I create a video and a script about how to talk to business sellers. I don't know what a business is worth. That might be a problem in my sphere. And I say, okay, let's create a deal calculator so that you can calculate it exactly. And then I'll walk through in a video or a Twitter post or a blog exactly how to fix it. Then somebody might say, I don't know how to find businesses for sale. And I would say, oh, well, why don't we create an entire thread in our community for how to find businesses for sale? Maybe turn that into a course. Okay. And what this means is that you will learn something from the doing or the documenting you're doing every day that gives you a hypothesis about something that you should build, that you'll turn into content experiments. Then you have a baseline to measure if it's working or not. Did this thing get views? Did people download it? And then you turn that analysis into a product that you then learn from, then build, then measure, then analyze, then turn into a product. And this feedback loop from your community helps you create products that are better than anybody else's. And let me give you a perfect example. Here's my $1 billion bet, or one of them. We have a company called BizScout. How did I create BizScout, which now has 71,000 business listings? It's like the Zillow for small business acquisition, right? So, you go to buy a house, you go to Zillow, you check out the houses, you select them. I want a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, located in New York. I want it to be under $1 million, whatever. So we do the same thing for business acquisitions. And so that started because people started to say, well, I don't know how to find a business to buy. And I was like, oh, here's some sites. All the sites were bad. So I was like, well, why don't we build that? And now that thing is 25,000 buyer and seller connections have been made. We've got proprietary listings. It's going to be a really big company, I hope, one day. And that all came from a video and a piece of content that started. And so I want you to think about, as you're creating content in your business, which even could be internal. Here's an SOP for how I paint a house. Every time you have a problem, you create a resource and you ask if it's content. Then it will turn into, eventually, if you do this right, something called the marketing infinity loop, which is where you turn your free stuff into your paid stuff. Your paid stuff also becomes your marketing stuff, and it continues to loop around. And so here's how it works. First, you start with awareness. So I create a piece of content, and that content gets views on whatever platform. That's great. That puts you into the consideration cycle, which is like, all right, maybe somebody will consider buying from me. They'll consider using my service. Then finally, they'll move to purchase. So they'll buy something from you online. Then a few of them will move to advocates. That's where they write reviews, testimonials, take surveys. And then until finally they come into your loyalty program, which is where not only they talk about you, but they might subscribe to your newsletter list and also subscribe to a referral program, and then do the thing that is most important, more than anything else, continue to buy from you and tell their friends about you. And you just keep going. So awareness to consideration, to purchase, to advocacy, to loyalty. And as you follow this infinity loop, your little content business turns into a paid ad machine. What would I do if I was you? Start small, find my niche, use my content to build my product and then to market it, and then continue to iterate from feedback. And if you do this again and again and again, you will build an unfair advantage so big that others can't follow you. So how do you start then? If you're like, all right, I kind of see the path now for how I can make money from content. What is the rule to start getting the number one currency, which is awareness? That rule is, first, you have to have a system. A system is what we teach at the Contrarian boardroom, but having an operating system for how you're going to run your content. Then you have to have a team system. So how is your team going to run your content? And then you got to have an overview system, which is, how am I going to see if this stuff is working or not? And you can kind of see right here how we use ours. Once you have that system in place, the next rule is a little bit more fun. And that rule is just, don't be fucking boring. The thing about content that'll kill you more than anything else is if your content never gets attention, then it doesn't matter how good you are at selling people things, nobody's ever watching them. So a couple things that matter. I think every company needs more opportunities for people to fall in love with them. I think that is actually what you want. You want people to hate what you're doing or love what you're doing, but apathy is the thing that you want the least. And so let's take a bad example first. What does a terrible newsletter look like? Well, most newsletters or emails from companies, they look like this, right? It's like, I don't know, extra 20% off flash sale, everything you need to know about crypto. I mean, I'm bored. I would never open either one of these. Instead, I would go back to one of the greatest emails I think that's ever been written. And this was written by Derek Sievers, the head of CD Baby back in the day. And the email's just ridiculous. So let me read it to you. Thank you for your order from CD Baby. It was a CD site for young kids. That's how we used to listen to music before Spotify. We had these big discs and we put them in and we kept them in these floppy folders. Anyway, Derek Sievers had a business that sold CDs. And the email that he had when you got a purchase from his store was so good. Here's how it goes. Your CD has been gently taken from our CD Baby shelves with sterilized, contamination-free gloves and placed onto a satin pillow. A team of 50 employees inspected your CD and polished it to make sure it was in the best possible condition before mailing. Our packing specialist from Japan lit a candle and a hush fell over the crowd as he put your CD into the finest gold-lined box that money can buy. We all had a wonderful celebration afterwards, and the whole party marched down the street to the post office where the entire town of Portland waved bon voyage to your package on its way to you and our private CD Baby jet on this day, Friday, June 6th. I hope you had a wonderful time shopping at CD Baby. We sure did. We're all exhausted, but we can't wait for you to come back. Thank you again. Derek Sievers, President CD Baby, the little store with the best new independent music. It's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous thank you email. It's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That this thing got shared tens and tens of millions of times. Now it's gotten a little bit overplayed. Lots of people have copied it. But back in its day, this was really unique. And so what is your version of that today? I want to give you an example. I told my team, because we have a big newsletter business, and it's an incredible newsletter, I think. It's contrarianthinking.co. But in it, we tell people how to make money with businesses, right? And so every single week, it's different business ideas and different ways to grow your business, all focused on money. And I felt like our subject lines were terrible. And your subject line, that's your face card, baby. That's like the first thing you see when you, are going on a blind date and, you have your 1 second to impress somebody. That's your subject line, right? And so they're really important. I could write you a beautiful email, but if my subject line sucks, you're never going to click on it. Then you're never going to buy anything from me. And then I'm going to have to play my tiny violin. And so we weren't getting enough clicks. So I went to my team and I was like, hey, these subject lines are super boring. And so we wrote a newsletter about tree trimming and how a guy made money with tree trimming. And I said, I'll give you $1,000 if you can beat me in my subject line for this, because I think yours are boring. And they said, Codie, we think you're being ridiculous. You're being too hard on us. And I said, fine. If you win and your subject line gets higher clicks than my subject lines, I'll pay you $1,000. I'll be wrong and I'll go fuck off. And they said, great, deal. So we A/B tested the email. And some of the subject lines were like, growing a towering $144,000 tree business. How to grow your $1,000 or $144,000 money tree with a tree, emoji. Proof that money grows on trees. That actually was the top rated one. You want to know what my subject line was? I love guys with wood, ... Which one do you think you got the most clicks? Mine. Now, when they went in there, I had a funny first line that was like, excuse me, you dirty little rascals. What I mean is I love guys with big wooden trees that make a lot of money. And this thing is all about how people can make money. Not only did that have an incredible subject line, but the responses from the email, like everybody loved it because it was unexpected. It was a little bit of a surprise. So the worst thing that you can do in content is be boring. So I'll tell you, it's not just about your subject line. It's also about design. Like most newsletters look like this. Corporate, standard images, terrible subject line, overly designed. They don't lead with value. They're boring. Like, look at this. It's like a screenshot of, I don't know, their annual publication. It looks like something I'd be pissed if I got in the mail because I feel like they're killing trees for no reason whatsoever. As opposed to this newsletter, which is Publish Press. This is a great newsletter. This is by Colin and Samir, and actually I think an incredible newsletter overall, but the design is crisp, baby. It's clean. It's got a celebrity up top, easy to grab. It's kind of corporate, but fun feeling. So it doesn't feel like overly designed. It's short. It's bulleted. It's got great subject lines. Or this one by Scott Galloway. This email is incredible. It shows you right away what you're going to get with a great subject line. It also has images that tell you things as opposed to the words. So it's show, don't tell. And then this one, which is mine. My newsletter at Contrarian, every single time we start it with a quote. People love quotes. We have this little kind of hand-drawn image of each person. So every time you open the subject line, you kind of know what you're looking at. The graphics overall are good. I think some of these subject lines could be better, like a practical framework for thinking bigger. Wop, wop. That was boring. You know what? We should tell Jacob about that. Jacob, we got to work on the subject lines. But like 8 lessons from the man who wrote The Laws of Power. Anyway, pretty good. The next is I want you to go Freud on him. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when you're creating content, we're talking to people's psychology, right? We humans are weird. And if we can get into their psychology, we can change actions. So let me give you some examples. So a CTA, a call to action in your content is really important. A lot of times people across platforms, so whether it's a video or it's a newsletter, they'll say things like, subscribe now, join now, sign up. Well, we've heard that so many times that we almost don't hear it anymore. You know what I mean? You go to a site, it says subscribe now. You're like, fuck, no, I don't want to. It's almost noise. As opposed to click here for this free X. Check out my list of 150 Y. Explore this value prop. This is telling you like, hey, I'm going to give you something. If you give me something, your email. Now, I think there's a cheat code to how to become really great at content. And this is for you 202 level people, the people who are not just doing this by yourself, the people who are ready for the bigger game. So it's not for everybody. You can listen if you're still 101 level, but if you're looking to scale up, there's only one real answer. And that is, it's always a who, not a how. So I just gave you a bunch of hows, but this slide is showing you the number 2s to some of the biggest number 1s on the internet. We've got The Rock. Next to him is Danny Garcia, his manager and agent who helped really create his career in multiple industries. We got Kim Kardashian with the ultimate momager, Kris Kardashian. We've got Nick Bare with his number 2 at his company. We got Mr. Beast with his original number 2. So who, not how. Anytime you want to grow on a platform, the best thing you can do is go find your best who. Because the truth of the matter is you're likely not a content expert, right? I wasn't. And if you're not, you can always hire somebody to do that instead. Now, where I would end is, if you want to build a community with 1,000 true fans and make more money on the internet, the one truth that you'll have to remember over time is this formula, which is consistency plus creativity plus grit to intention. And if you can use that formula continuously, you will find a way to make money online. Tell me if you guys like this episode. It's very tactical. And if you guys want to start a newsletter, we'll give you our tech stack. You can click the lead magnet below. It'll show you where we make newsletters. It'll also show you some of my favorite content tools, and you guys can rock and roll on your own version of a billion-dollar brand. I was just looking, and it looks like more than 50% of you are not subscribed to the Big Deal podcast. When you subscribe, first of all, it means we get to bring you bigger and better guests. It's also the number one way you can support this podcast. If you liked it today, subscribe on whatever channel that you're listening to. And I want to tell you something firsthand. You become whatever you allow into your attention span. And what I hope you feel from us every single day is that I value your attention and your time more than anything else. I promise to only bring you things that are going to make you more money. They're going to make you more motivated to make your life better. So give me a little solid here. Subscribe to the channel. This is how we grow. Also, leave me a review on what you want better and who you want on. I promise you will do it. Hey, if you're a business owner right now and you like the things you were hearing on this podcast, I have something that I haven't talked about publicly before that's just for you. It's called our SMB Boardroom. This is for small business owners who want to grow. It is for business owners who are on their way to making at least 7 figures a year. If this is you, hit the link down below. Talk to our team. This is the place that can be your late night emergency call for the things that go bump in the night in your business. If right now you feel like you're plateauing or you feel like you don't know how to handle your growth, we got you. So click the link below, SMB Boardroom. We just built it for you builders. Kind of obsessed with it. And I think if you are a builder, there's no place you're going to want to be except here. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at, while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.